Thank you very much, Julia. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon or this morning, however it may be for you. As Julia said, my name is Mike Baldwin. I am a Senior Product Manager here with LexisNexis, and I am a member of the product management team for the broader InterAction product. I have the opportunity and I think the good fortune to be the guy that gets to work with the mobility component, the mobility product. And I know that we have a fairly large audience today, and I believe a fairly mixed audience of those of you who may be current mobility clients and users, and those of you who may be just here looking for a little bit more information about mobility. So I'm going to try to blend the information that I give you and not make too many assumptions about your familiarity with mobility. Just as a little bit of a background, we did release InterAction Mobility just last year in September, following a roughly 3-month beta program with a select group of firms. We brought it to market in the fall, and we've seen very good success with it so far. The core value proposition, of course, of the mobility concept is being able to put the information that you've got within your organization, within your firm, to make it more accessible to your end users, to put it directly in the palms of their hands, literally on smartphones or tablets or other kinds of mobile devices, so that they can really leverage the power that's contained within that data that you have inside InterAction already. So it's what I like to call it increasing your ROI, your return on interaction. Right? You've got the deployment, you've got the data already. This is just another good way, perhaps a better way of getting that information out to your end users so that they can act on it and turn it around into growth for your business. So with that, today we're going to talk a little bit about Mobility 1.2, which is our latest release. And this was just it's a very fresh release. It's only about 2 weeks old. So just to give you a quick, my slide's not advancing. There we go. A quick view of what the release is all about. We did just put this out at the end of March, so it was actually late night on March 28th, early morning March 29th that we pushed this out to production. It was deployed globally and automatically. And so what I mean by that is that we do have, Mobility is a hosted web application. It is available worldwide. And with this particular release, it was entirely sort of behind the scenes, so it did not require any update within any of our client firms' data infrastructures. There was no update to the API server or the connector, and there was certainly no update required of our end users. So this was a silent upgrade, if you will, that we could control, and it was available literally within 3 minutes worldwide. So we're pretty excited about how the release process went for this. This is the third mobility release that we've pushed out to the market since the initial September release last year, and in doing so, we are proving our ability to keep to the cadence that we've sort of prescribed for this product. So we've intended to and have so far been doing a good job of making good on pushing out roughly quarterly releases of mobility, and that's the intent. So we don't ever want to say that we're going to do specifically quarterly or quarter-end releases, but the intent is really to get 3 to 4 releases out per year for mobility for a number of reasons. One, we want to make sure that we're getting features out to market very quickly, as quickly as possible in sort of smaller, more consumable, more specific or specifically value-adding pieces. But we also want to make sure that we get feedback on that on those releases as the new features come out, that we're able to fold that feedback back into the next release. And doing that on a faster, more predictable, more regular cadence is a good way for us to do that. So that's our intent going forward as well. The key theme of the Mobility 1.2 release is really around the empowerment of the end user to begin to add and edit data into InterAction. And we are doing that through a couple of specific features. Really, the three main highlights of this release of mobility are two features and one support add. The features are what we call our add or edit contact notes, auto add activities, and then we've added full support for Android 4.2, which is their codename Jelly Bean release. So we'll talk a little bit about each one of those features on the next two slides, and then I'm going to do a demonstration of the mobility release that's in production and available today. And I'll focus on the new features for that. So the first one is the ability to add or edit contact notes. So we believe that this was a very important feature to kind of lead out of the box with for giving the end user the ability to add information, to push data into mobility, whereas the previous releases of mobility have been more of a read-only kind of search and find and view kind of structure. Now, when I pull up notes on a person or on a organization, as an end user, I'm going to have the option of editing those notes, or if there are no notes, then I can go ahead and add notes to that record. So we believe this is important specifically for capturing that additional information, that context to that needs to be retained for a contact, the specific details about that contact, whether it's a person or a company, and to be able to do that while it's top of mind, while you're on the go, while the information is just recently learned, and before it's forgotten or lost or perhaps taken out of context. So I'll show you how to do that in the demo. It's pretty straightforward. And then the second, sort of along the same lines of capturing information while you're in the moment, is a new feature that we've added around creating activities. So we talked quite a bit about this internally and with some of our users about how, really what's the best way to add activities, and how likely is it that a user is going to take the time to type in all the information required for a new activity record on an iPhone or an Android or a BlackBerry. And I think there are definitely viable arguments for a number of different approaches there, but in the spirit of trying to introduce something that we believe would add the most value soonest and quickest, and also in trying to minimize impact on the end user, the first foray, I guess, into the activity realm here is via what we're calling an auto add activity type of process. So what happens is that if the end user places a phone call or sends an email directly from mobility, so they invoke the phone or the email buttons on a contact record within mobility, they will have the option of mobility automatically capturing that event, that communication event, if you will, as an activity record within InterAction. So this applies to phone calls and this applies to emails only. We decided to bypass the text feature for this. And it is, like I said, it's only for those communications that are triggered specifically from mobility. The end user would then have the option of setting a privacy setting for whether or not they keep that activity private or whether or not that is broadcast or published to the firm. They can enter notes to it, and then they can save it, or they can cancel out of it. There are a couple of other settings around this, which I'll show you during the demo, as to how automated this would be. And it's also important to point out that this is a firm-level choice as well, so the firm can choose to not have this feature on whatsoever, or they can have it turned on for the firm. So a firm-level option and some user-level options on this feature. And again, the value thought here is the ability to just capture that activity, generate the activity record with the least possible amount of steps required for that end user, and presenting the capability of capturing the event, capturing the notes, any additional description details while that user is in the moment, just got off the call, just had the discussion, or what have you, so before it gets lost or misinterpreted later. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the demo itself. I'm going to borrow one of our favorite demo personas for the use of this. I've logged in to our InterAction mobility environment here as Ed Roberts, who is a fictional person who we use in a lot of our demos. And as you can see, I've called up mobility here within a browser. I'm just showing this within the Chrome browser. I can stretch this out, of course, to sort of replicate a tablet view, or we could shrink it up to maybe make it closer to a BlackBerry or an iPhone kind of view. But it is an HTML-driven web application. So whatever the form factor is, you see that this is generally the view that you're going to get. I'm going to search for a contact, and in this case, I'm going to look for another one of our favorite personas, which is Jane Tarnoff. And so I know her name, her last name is fairly unique, so I'm just going to look on Tarnoff. And it does automatically look for her. I don't even have to hit enter. It searches ahead. So it finds Jane Tarnoff. And if I open her record, I will see that I've got her business card view. And across the bottom on my menu down here, I have the option of viewing notes, connections, upcoming activities, or interactions, which is historical activities. And if I choose notes, it will bring up the notes view for Jane Tarnoff. I have the option of viewing my notes, or I can also view firm level notes. And those could potentially be different. One, of course, is private to me, and the other is shared across the firm. So for the process of adding new notes to this, all I would need to do is select the Edit button, and you can see the view changes, and I'll now have a blinking cursor, so I can add new notes. So I am adding new notes. And then I could save it right away. I also have the option of inserting the date and my name. So if I click that, you'll see that it will put in the date, today's date, April 15th, tax day, and my name, whoever the logged in user is. So I have the option of inserting that as additional context into the notes, and I'll say, forgot some notes. Just a few more. And so that's now tagged essentially with my name and date as a point of reference. So then I can, of course, cancel out of this if I change my mind, but if I save it, I will make that change, commit the change, and you can see that my changes are now immediately available in the notes field. So that's my notes. If I did it to the firm notes, it would work the same way. Of course, there's no I'm sorry. So it would work the same way for firm notes. And if I go to Intel, and I want to view the company level notes, it would work the same way here as well. If I go to the notes section, again, I've got my notes and I've got firm notes. There are some shared firm notes here, but there is no entry on my notes for this. So it's the same process. I'm creating new notes, I'm adding new notes, but you would still follow the edit button and the same process to do that. So like I said, it's pretty straightforward. I will go ahead and cancel out of that. Now the other new feature is the auto add activities. So what I'm going to do here, as I said, it will capture phone calls or emails. The first thing I'm going to want to do, because like I said, this is a firm level option, if the firm doesn't have it on, I'm never going to see any of the choices. But if the firm does have it on, and this is something you would coordinate with our support team to activate. If it does have it on, then when I go to my information page as an end user, I will see a bar here called Settings. Now, if you're familiar with mobility at all from our past releases, you'll see that we've made some changes to this settings page because it was getting, frankly, pretty busy with all the information that's here. So we've collapsed the information into separate sections. So there's an About section that talks about the version of mobility that we're on. It has our copyright laws, all the legal text, contact information where you can send an email directly to our support team. That's always been there. Technical details about the browser and the logged in user. But now we've got the settings piece, which is specific to auto-add activity. So like I said, if the firm doesn't have the feature turned on, this bar won't even appear. It just won't be there. Now, if they turn it on at the firm level, then the end user will have choices to make about this feature. And they're separated by both phone calls and by email. So the default here is that the user would not, sorry, the application would not save activities, but they can easily turn it on by selecting either confirming when saving activities or saving without confirmation. So saving without confirmation just makes it an automated process so they don't get a prompt every time they make a phone call or send an email from mobility, but which is that's, it's assuming they have full knowledge of what's going on. I've set it to the confirm step so that we can see what that confirmation dialog looks like. And like I said, I can make different choices. I could have it on or silently for phone calls or off entirely, but I could make those choices between phone calls and emails. So I've got it on and I've got it set to confirm. I will leave it that way, and I will go back and look for my contact, Jane Tarnoff. Now, I can see here that I've got her business number. Right as soon as I don't even have to open the business card. I can click on this, and if I'm on a phone, then this is going to give me the option to call her directly from the phone. So I'm not on a phone, so I'm going to get an error message, which I will close out of. But you'll see what happens when I close out of that is that it knows now that I've made a call to Jane. So it's giving me this prompt to confirm that call as an activity. I don't have to. I can cancel out of it, or I could save it and commit that, and I could save it to remain private so that only I have this in my activities, or I can publish it to the firm. In this case, I'm going to keep it private, but I'm going to add some notes. Jane and I talked about the upcoming proposal. And it's dated, it's marked as a phone call, and it's color-coded as a phone call as well. So the activity type will dictate the color scheme here. And it will be saved as an activity titled Phone Call to Jane Tarnoff. And you'll see that in a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now if I go into Jane's business card, I can come down here to Interactions, which is her activity tab. And I'll see that, that this phone call has been logged. I can open up and see the details, and then I can return back to her business card. So the same thing happens for email. If I click email here, now I'm on my computer, so it's going to launch my Outlook browser. But on a smartphone or on a tablet, it will launch the default email application that is pointed to by that by the browser. So it's going to launch that. I'll close out of it, and similarly, I've got a new activity prompt here for an email to Jane. Now, maybe on this one, I want to promote it to everybody, and I'll just say, talked about stuff, and I can save that, and then go back, and I'll be able to see that email now there as well. So the difference, like I said, in the settings is if I choose to not be confirmed, that those saves would just happen automatically on either phone calls or emails, and I wouldn't need to hit save on that confirmation box. It would just skip that step, and they would be saved automatically. So, those are the two new features. That's really it. We've tried to make them as straightforward and sort of logical and intuitive as possible for the end users. But we're really excited that they're out there in market, and we're looking forward to getting feedback on them as we start to see more and more use about them. So that's really it. And as I said, the third thing for this release is really that we added support for Android 4.2. As we go forward, we expect to be adding support for new platforms pretty much all the time. Pretty much with every release, we expect there'll be some sort of addition or adjustment to the support. So we're looking forward to next releases. And with that, again, that's really as much as there is to show for the features right now. I did want to point out a couple other things to everyone who's joined today. There are some mobility resources that are out there and available to you today as InterAction clients. And the first one, which I think is probably very significant to point out, is on the Support Center. So if you go to our customer support website, which is available at support.interaction.com, there is an entire page that's focused specifically on mobility. That's there, and it just contains a ton of information. We update it all the time. Every time we do a release, we update it. So if you go to it and navigate to the mobility page, you'll see the highlights and the key features for each new release. The more technical release notes are posted there as well. A lot of general technical information about how to get up and running with mobility for the first time, installation and configuration instructions for the API server component and the mobility connector, configuration instructions around those. And then there are the full set of formal documentation is there as well, which includes the more in-depth administrator guide, the user guide, what we're calling a quick reference guide, which is it's a single PDF, very easily distributable, and intended to be sent out to end users that shows them kind of how to get up and running with mobility for the first time, how to navigate to the website and create the desktop icon and all of that sort of stuff. And then there's some more architectural or technical overview information if you're interested in understanding how the hosted web model for InterAction mobility works. So that's all available there. And if you've already got a login at the Support Center, you can go to that page and you can see any of that stuff. The downloads themselves are also posted there, so the components that you need to get mobility up and running. The other item, which is new with this release, we haven't done this for the previous mobility releases, is there is now on-demand training that is available on LexisNexis University. So we're very excited to have the first mobility training block that's available at LexisNexis University. It is free. It's on demand, and all you need to do is log into to LexisNexis University the way that you would any other for any other course content, and search for it, and you'll see it. In fact, it's currently kind of highlighted at the top, so it's very easy to find, and you can distribute that throughout your firm as well. So that's no cost, on demand, always available, and should be a good reference for you as well. So that's lexisnexis.com/university. The other two, which are probably maybe obvious, but please don't ever hesitate to contact your account manager. We've got a dedicated team of account managers here now on the InterAction side, as well as customer support. They're very, very good at answering questions that you might have about mobility. So with that, I will open it up if there are any questions about what I've shown today. And before I do that, let me just make a little, I've got a small commercial for myself, and I made a note on the slide to make sure I remember to talk about it. But if your firm is interested in participating in any kind of an ongoing feedback cycle with us about mobility, we'd be very interested in speaking with you. So whether you're in a marketing role or a technical role, or you have end users, professionals, attorneys, accountants, consultants within your firm that you believe would be interested in kind of using mobility and providing feedback to us about it, we'd certainly like to talk to you and see about how to sort of best set that up on an ongoing basis. That would be, potentially speaking about future releases, concepts for specific features that we'd like to test out, different ways of doing things, or sort of anywhere in between. So send me an email if you're interested in that, or you think others within your firm might be interested in that. And my email is right there. It's just mike.baldwin@lexisnexis.com. And with that, Julia, I'd like to go ahead and open it up for any questions that may have come in.
Thank you, Mike. We have had a few questions. We'll jump right into them as we are running close on time. Something that came up a couple times is, will mobility record phone calls or emails that are not made directly from the mobility solution?
Yeah, so it will not. And that is by design. So if you're making phone calls just with the standard phone dialer, or you're sending emails from the email app on your phone, it's not going to record them. It will only record them, or even give you the option of recording them as activities if they are placed from mobility directly.
All right. And also, will mobility capture the email content as part of the activity?
No, it does not. So what happens is when you launch an email from mobility, it then sends you to that email app, and then writing the body of that email is sort of outside of mobility. Mobility does not suck that back in, but what it will capture is the event, which is an email being sent to your target, your recipient, and as of a date. So you have the option of cutting and pasting if you wanted to do that and put the body of the email into that, but at the outset it will just capture the core information that the email was created at that and to that person on that date.
And are the activity types limited to email and phone call?
So currently they are. Those are the two primary kind of communication events that would be triggered from mobility. Going forward in the future, like I said at the beginning of the call, we recognize that there are other scenarios when you might want to create an activity manually, say if it's a meeting or an event or a conference or something, and you want to record something that's not a phone call or email. And we are certainly evaluating the best ways to do that right now via mobility. We're treating it as somewhat of a separate use case, but it is definitely being considered.
And last question, is mobility available for everyone, and are there any system requirements?
Is it available? So it's available. I'll say a couple things about it. So it's available globally. Right now, it is dependent upon you having InterAction installed already, right? So it's an add-on for InterAction installations. It does require the API server, so that is available for 6.0 and later. So if you're pre-6.0 on InterAction, this is maybe a reason for you to consider the upgrade, perhaps. But it does require InterAction 6.0 or later fundamentally. And then on top of that, like I said, it's the API server has to be there. There's a small component called the mobility connector that we require to facilitate the communication, but that's something that's freely downloadable from our support site.
Thank you, Mike. That does conclude today's webinar, and I'd like to thank Mike and all of our attendees for taking time out of your day to join us. Thank you.